It's no surprise that Avatar: The Way of Water is blowing everyone away. But now, James Cameron is diving deeper into the new, beautiful visual effects tricks they can do, starting with the insane underwater scenes. Now, I know that the first story didn't need underwater technology, but do you truly think Cameron wouldn't have used it if there were any? We might have seen how deep Eywa's roots go in the first film, but this time, a Deep X3D, a 3D beam splitter made by Australian visual effects artist Pavel Ochtel in 2015, was used to create an underwater camera rig. Have you seen the famous Kate Winslet underwater shot? Yeah, that! And if you've got the talent these films have, it makes sense that Cameron worked easily with Ochtel to get those clear underwater shots. But that's not all. No. This man values pushing the limits, which meant he also used Nikon's 15mm lenses from the 1980s, because those are made specifically for underwater shots. I mean, talk about an artist doing anything for their craft. People don't respect him for nothing.
When Avatar came out, there were 6,000-ish digital 3D screens in the world.
Sure.
There's now 120,000 3D-enabled digital screens in the world.
Right.
And that statement's true, even from the first film, because I don't think anyone needs a reminder on how futuristic we all thought the first film was. After all, at first, Cameron had used basic digital capture in Avatar, and let's say the result wasn't alive. So, you know what he did? This artist used the Volume, which is the world's largest motion capture stage, and he used that along with a light stage that saved Pandora's wildlife. Of course, we went back to Pandora for a bit, but the focus was more on the water, so that meant some updates had to be made, like the motion camera rig, because honestly, Cameron either went big or went home. Now, his way with rigs has been talked about over and over in interviews, which is valid, especially since the two Sony f950 3D cameras combined to create a fusion camera rig for Avatar was unlike anything ever before, and it allowed the director a free range of motion on the virtual stage. Does that make anyone else imagine an insane image of him legit flying on a set on a rig? Either way, Cameron upgraded the rig for the sequel by adding Sony Venice cams, and this is Sony's first full-frame digital camera. So, as you can guess, it was specifically built to meet the film's demand, and the camera was able to capture images in 6K resolution and has a higher range. If you've seen the film, it makes you believe the magic is real, because the shots are now more vibrant than they were in the first film.
Whales are people just like us, and they're trying to survive out there. They're trying to keep their families fed and healthy, and hopefully the show can create some kind of a bond, a compassionate bond with them.
Especially with the underwater glowing wildlife. But of course, he also upgraded to HFR, or a higher rate film, to stop any jitter. You wouldn't want to watch something of this scale and feel like you're using your home Wi-Fi, right? Which is why the legend tried to focus on every detail possible, even if it meant we had to wait a little bit for the sequel. It was worth it. And just like the first one, there wasn't a limit to his research either. That's right, there could have been a movie made on the level of info Cameron has got now. And honestly, who wouldn't want just that? I'd love to see more of how he got into creating art with his passion, cause James Cameron's had a lifelong obsession with the ocean's depth, which more or less gave him endless material to work with. So of course, he wanted nothing but perfection. Come on, he has the power right now to expose a lot of people to the ocean's beauty. He wasn't going to skip out on that. He didn't with Pandora the first time, right? So when it was revealed that they considered using motion capture on a whale to track Tolkien's movements, I don't think many of us were surprised. It almost seems like he remade underwater cinema to give another memory to remember this world by. You know, one that doesn't make us question what weight a door can hold. Either way, there's a common theme in the James Cameron multiverse, or JCM. He wants his audience to step into the world. For better or worse, we're going to feel everything. And what's always helped with that in the Avatar stories? The incredible use of swing cam. Genuinely, guys, whether it was swinging on trees in Pandora or joining the Sullies as they fought insane warcrafts, Cameron doesn't pass out on us following along with everyone's movements. And with the addition of legit flying fish, it'd be sad if we didn't ride with them. Either way, as with the first film, Cameron wanted to be present with the actors during their performance on the virtual stage's volume, which meant capturing their performance in real time on the virtual stage, rather than picking angles and shots later in post-production. As a result, the Simulcam or swing camera was made, and it's still used in the second film. It gives directors more freedom to move because its screen swings easily at any angle and is unique in that it doesn't use a lens. Instead, it uses a marker and LCD screen to record position and movement on the virtual stage based on where the actors and objects were. Then, the tracking data was controlled by the effects switcher and showed low-resolution CG images of everything happening on screen in real time. Come on, you can't say that's not insanely cool. And I'm sure I wasn't alone in spending hours looking at the BTS videos we got all those years ago, although now it's even more detailed. Still, in the early 2000s, James Cameron certainly lit a fire in the industry with his visual demands. Seriously, he more or less had Microsoft wrapped around his fingers. Not that a lot has changed since then, but at this time, his ideas crossed many limits for these companies, and he carried on with an "and what" mindset. But it all started with his demand for perfection in the CGI department. Now we know that some of the sequences in the first film were done without even a storyboard behind them, because Cameron is just insane like that. Though what's even more interesting is how his need for the details in such out-of-the-box shots led to a new way of creating muscle movements in CG, and that certainly raised the bar in the second one. See the muscle movements? And each creature is made separately, so Microsoft had to make a cloud-based data system. This was called Gaia to store the film's assets, which totaled 1 petabyte. See, let me just say this for the people who aren't aware of this fact. That level of storage space and details is genuinely unheard of. But of course, if there's one thing I think we all know by now, it's that James Cameron will wait 10 years to make something, but he'll do it his way, even if that means getting a multi-billion-dollar company to work for his project. Of course, nothing may top The Tank, built for the second film. Yep, somehow James legit went above and beyond just the practical oceanic stunts from Titanic, and gave us another example of how awesome Kate Winslet is, cause she can hold her breath for over 7 minutes, because truly, they're both iconic. Still, in the studio, a 900,000-gallon tank was used, and all of the actors needed to learn free diving and breath control. Honestly, in the long run, that's a party trick not a lot of people are gonna have. Still, using so much water meant that light blurred some shots while attempting mocap underwater, which caused focusing issues with mocap markers. So, to solve this, the tank was filled with white balls, and they helped light reflection while allowing the actors to move up to the surface. I genuinely think the making of this film could be studied in future classes, and this tank is just an example of why. That's all the comparisons Cameron has explained between the visual effects of Avatar and Avatar: The Way of Water.